Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Welcome to Grain Gab, a show where we sit back and gab about what's on our minds in the grain market and how it's affecting you, our producer, and just what to do about it. Look, the grain markets are ever moving, crazy, and downright emotional. That's why we're here to sit down, look at things holistically, and find your strategic yet grounded approach to handling the obstacles that the market may bring us. I'm Lori Nelson, your host, and this is Kristin Stien. How's it going, Kristin?
I'm doing good, Lori. Happy July.
Good. Happy July, middle of July. Where's the summer
It feels
going?
like April with all the showers that just keep coming. I can't curse the rain yet. I've got a little bit too much PTSD going on from last year. So let's be happy it's here, I suppose.
Yeah, what a difference it's made in a year, praying for rain last year and getting plenty of it this year.
Yeah.
So the market this past month has been a roller coaster in one direction, it seems like. Corn's down around 6 cents, soybeans down around 70 cents from last week. Last Friday, we had the WASDE report. The USDA revised the ending stocks for corn, soybeans, and wheat. Corn is projected at 1.877 billion bushels from 2.02 billion bushels, and soybeans projected at 345 million bushels from 350 million bushels. Wheat increased from 702 million bushels up from 688 million bushels, but was offset by large new crop expectations. So crop conditions have remained the same this week at 68% good to excellent on corn and beans. And there's some weather moving through the Midwest. A big point, the funds. The funds are record short this corn and soybean market, Kristin. They offset some of their short positions back in May, which gave us the ability to price some bushels. And now they're just record short. So where do you want to start? And what does this all mean?
I guess my first question is do you believe the crop ratings?
There's part of me maybe questioning those crop ratings when you've got so much rain in certain areas that are probably starting to affect the crop. But soybeans, if I recall, they're still ahead of the 5-year average. August is coming. This is when we make beans in August. So I guess I do have a bit of a question mark on those good to excellent ratings right now. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to the hell, I don't know, right? Like,
yes.
You hear it has been a wild year for storms. I was listening to a forecaster today that talked about just this year compared to typical years when it comes to lightning strikes, wind events, that type of thing. And we are well above the average by way of events. And we are also only second to 2011. And I know there's plenty of people watching here that remember what 2011 was like, because that was the first time we ever heard the term derecho, right? And then our buddies over in Illinois experienced that a couple days ago, unfortunately, and here we are all over again. So there's not just that going on. There's plenty of rain going in certain places. There's plenty of hail going on in other places. And then there's spots that are way too dry, right? It's either you are too wet, too dry, or too dry, and nowhere in between. I will say out my backyard, knock on wood, things are looking pretty good. The chart that I find super interesting or super intriguing, right, is the corn yield versus 28-week good to excellent rating that our awesome insights team just put out here recently. And basically it shows us where on the bottom side on week 28, what percentage were we good to excellent, and then coming up into the final corn yield that the USDA put out, what was the final yield for that? And so really there for 2024, we're in the spot where for what we're at good to excellent rating, we'd be at the highest ending yield. And so that tells me that we've got room to move lower a little bit, but we still have to consider that some of those other years, there's been plenty of technology improvements that have come along in that way as well. So all still up in air. I think the biggest question that I have is continues to just be when it comes to yield and all that kind of stuff is around if the USDA makes those adjustments, when will it be? Right? Because a lot of times when it is wet weather, it's a longer term thing because you really don't know what disease pressure is going to be like until the end. So that being said, Are the funds looking at the same thing and worried about exiting their shorts? They haven't showed us that yet. It seems like they're in this pattern when you look at a daily chart, they're in this pattern of hammering lower on the market on Mondays and then evening out for the rest of the week and then hammering it again on Mondays all over again the next week. Does that pattern continue on? Maybe. Maybe. I guess we'll still have to see. I think the biggest issue that we still have is the amount of producer selling that can go along with it. And then just the question of at what price do physical buyers start to be interested in this thing?
Sure. So, that's identifying a lot of risk and what's the opportunity that we have to manage going
Yeah.
forward. And that just ties into our number 6 rule, identifying the risk and opportunities and have a plan to manage both. And
Yeah,
so,
specifically on the plan to manage both part of it, right? Right
right,
now, we're in the midst of risk to the downside. Now it's just a matter of at what point do we bottom out and then what's our upside potential in here? And that's where we go back to, you asked, what have we been doing lately? We've been rolling a mountain of puts down. And we've gotten questions centered around, why would I roll them down if we're extremely bearish? Right? If we have a 2 billion bushel carryout, I get that we don't have to have 450 corn. So why would I roll my puts down and not just keep a 470 or not just keep 1180 put on beans or whatever that number may have been? Right? And this goes back to the conversation around funds and physical buyers. At what number, especially when they already have a record short position on, at what number or what event starts to trigger them and say, maybe I should lighten up my positions. I don't even have to go long on this thing, but maybe I should lighten it up. And that goes back to the whole premise of this is why we roll them down. We want to maintain a floor, right? We want to
right,
continue to have that downside protection on unsold bushels, but at the same time, we want to take some of that money out of the market that it's given to us. Or the analogy that I loved, especially when I was first starting, is if your house starts on fire, right? And the fire department comes out and you say, you know what? It was the kitchen fire, but just let the whole thing burn. I'd rather the whole insurance check come to me rather than just part of it. No,
no,
nobody wants to deal with that, right? But you
no.
are going to call the insurance man and say, hey, I had a kitchen fire. Right. So
Mhm.
it's just a matter of managing the ebbs and the flows or the roller coaster of the market as it gives it to you.
Right. And if we're talking about options, we've been rolling those puts down. And at some point, maybe some conversation about a call for
Yeah.
priced bushels if we think we're going to move higher. We want to buy our puts when the market is high. We want to buy our calls when the market is low. Do you think we're
Fair
low?
enough. Yeah. I don't know.
Just to keep
I
it
don't know.
simple
Yeah. I
on a
think it,
put
and
call conversation.
absolutely perfectly describes that, right? When market's going down, you put down the phone, you pick up the call. Shout out to, who that could be listening for that little analogy. But if you think it's going higher, but mainly it goes back to less about what I think the market's going to do and where my risk is, right? If I don't have a lick sold, maybe this is the time where you consider selling bushels and take a look at carry when you do that. Maybe it's the time that you consider selling bushels and just buying a call in case this is the bottom of the market.
Right.
That type of conversation.
What else do we need to cover, Kristen?
I mean, I don't know anything market wise. I have one other thing on the list, but you have anything on your list until then?
I think I'm good right now. I know
Cool.
probably what's coming next, so bring it
I mean,
on.
manage your options, right? That's the big thing right now.
Yeah.
Manage the positions that you have and look at your overall risk in the meantime. So, all that to say, again, I did a lot of the talking here, Lori. It's your turn. So, questions for human cards. You ready for this? We got to get to know you somehow.
I'm ready.
All right. If you could snap your fingers and instantly speak another language, what would it be?
Spanish.
Spanish.
Mhm.
Because you want to go to Mexico or Spain?
Both. Why not? We'll just go both.
Okay.
First thing that comes to mind is just the workforce
Yeah.
and being able to, you just go to the grocery store anymore and it seems like you've got another language to
And I mean,
read the backside of the box.
if I remember right, Spanish is the language of love, right? So I'm
Oh,
sure there's something
sure.
along
Yes.
there that you're
There you
going for
go.
too. So, all right, one more. If you could try 3 things with no consequences, what would they be?
Try 3 things with no consequences. What
0
would it be?
consequences.
Oh, I think it would probably be to parachute would be one. There'd be no consequences there, no fear to do that would probably be one. I'd probably like to trick ride with no consequences.
Like stand up on a horse? Is that
Oh
what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Okay.
flip over it,
Okay.
just act like I'm 5 again. Number 3, with no consequences. This kind of takes me back to my high school days. I don't know if I want to go there. Let's just go with
Drinking and
2.
driving is a bad thing, Lori. Fair enough. We'll leave it at that. We won't go any
All
further.
right. Thanks, Kristen. All right. So thanks for joining us on this episode of Grain Gab. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and hit the like button. It really helps the algorithms. Would like to thank Paige and the Insights team for making us look good. Until next time, keep your head up, your feet grounded. Cheers.
Cheers.